So I guess technically our award show has dropped at this point,
Sure has. Why do you
but
mention it?
it's still 2024 so I
Yeah,
think
but what basho are we talking about?
I think Kyushu mostly.
I think
We're
this is the
deriving most of this from Kyushu.
yeah, but like this is the first in the Hatsu basho sequence of episodes, so maybe it counts as 2025 now.
I don't know.
If you
I
haven't
feel
listened
like
to our awards show yet, the reason this is incredibly important is that I did better on the year-long predictions than Ryan, which means in 2025
you
my name goes
didn't.
ahead of
I just
his.
granted you a joke hundredth of a point
Hmm.
that I have to recognize.
You shouldn't have done that.
I
I don't know
shouldn't
why
have.
you but I don't know. I'll give you this one, but I'll take the prediction. I'll introduce or sorry, the review when the Banzuke does come out. I'll split them
Mm,
with you.
mm. I'll accept it, but I'm not happy. But I'm not going to be happy throughout the entirety of
No.
2025. So, with that being said, welcome to Grand Sumo Breakdown, the unofficial sumo podcast for official sumo fans. This is Ryan.
This is Jake for the last time coming after Ryan.
Last time for the next year. I'll get back on top.
You're
Don't you
right. You're
worry.
right.
At least you acknowledge it. So this is the prediction for the Hatsu 2025 Basho. Gonna do things a little bit differently than I typically do. I've been working. I work too hard on these. I
We
put
give you content that is too good, so we really need to ratchet this back a little.
No, it's more that just like my personal and work life have gotten so busy that I need to unfortunately scale back a little bit of the prep that I do on this. I'm just gonna kind of wing it on this one. I've already made my prediction. I've gone through multiple drafts on my prediction, but instead of having like a 10-page outline, just gonna kind of go through and explain my thought process live and in real time. So hopefully that works out pretty well. And this is an interesting Banzuke. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the results of the Kyushu Basho. Everything looks pretty normal until you get to about Maegashira 7, where we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 out of 9 Rikshi had either a 7 and 8 or 8 and 7 record in that range, which means all those guys are going to stay in that range. And there's going to be a huge pileup once we get to about Maegashira 7 through 8, but also because all of those guys had those kind of like middling records in that range. There's nobody really available to go up higher. So there's going to be
Sure.
a big drought that we're going to have to fill and bring people up way higher than they're supposed to because there's just nobody there to fill it up. They all just had 8-7 or 7-8 records right next to each other. It's crazy.
I'm guessing there's going to be at least a few cases where guys that got the same record at almost exactly the same rank are going to be very far apart on the Banzuke.
Yeah, I think I've got a couple of things like that in my prediction. I don't think anything too egregious, but yeah, there's going to be something like that. So why don't we dive right into it? At Yokozuna, of course, we are going to have Teru no Fuji, despite back-to-back absences. He's Yokozuna. They don't go anywhere. And Ozeki is going to be fairly straightforward. Hopefully, Yokozuna is a little bit more complicated for the Haru Banzuke prediction due to the performance of some of our Ozeki, but the Ozeki were ordered Kotozakura, Hoshoryu, Onosato in the previous Basho, and that's the same order as far as most wins to least wins that we had this time. So no need to reshuffle any of our Ozeki. At Ozeki East, we're going to have Kotozakura. Ozeki West, we're going to have Hoshoryu. And Ozeki 2 West, we will have Onosato. Onosato, of course, being on the west side to make up the imbalance of Teru no Fuji being alone on the east side at the Yokozuna rank. Moving down to Sekiwake, we've got one Rikshi that is dropping out of the Sekiwake ranks. Kirishima had a 6-9 record. So we need to fill that Sekiwake East ranking, and it's just going to be as easy as Daisho had a winning record at Sekiwake West. We're just going to slide him over to Sekiwake East. And so then now we need to fill Daisho's spot, and we've actually got four Rikshi that all deserve the rank of Sekiwake based on their results in the Kyushu Basho. You had Wakamoto Haru, who went 10 and 5 from Komosubi, Wakataka Kage, who went 10 and 5 from Maegashira 2, Abi 11 and 4 from Maegashira 3, and Takanosho, who went 11 and 4 from Maegashira 6. But there's no need to complicate it really. I'm just showing there's a bunch of people that do deserve the Sekiwake rank, but it's very simple. Wakamoto Haru, 10 and 5 from Komosubi. He's going to be filling that open Sekiwake spot at Sekiwake West.
Just for I know we've tread these waters before, but like the Wakamoto Haru got a better ranking or a better record than Daisho, but he's not going to jump in front of him in line, right?
Yeah, so that is something that I went back and checked because Ono Sato, he had a 12 and 3 Yusho back in Natsu at Komusubi, and then Abi had a 10 and 5 record from Sekiwake West, and our Sekiwake East was leaving, so we needed to fill that Sekiwake East. In my prediction, I had Ono Sato jumping ahead of Abi. I figured if there was any way it was going to happen, it was going to be somebody that got a Yusho. Did not happen. Abi slid over to Sekiwake East, and Onosato just jumped up to Sekiwake West. So, despite there being a 2-win difference between Daisho and Wakamoto Haru, Wakamoto Haru having more than Daisho, I'm just going to slide Daisho over and move Wakamoto Haru up. I
Sure.
don't think they're going to jump each other at all there.
We've seen an even bigger disparity not result in a jump. So
Exactly. Yep.
yeah,
And it happened just this past year. So, hopefully, they keep that same precedent going. So now we get to the Komusubi rank, and we've got 2 spots to fill. We have Wakamoto Haru, who's jumping up to Sekiwake, and then we had Shodai, who went 4 and 11 from the Komusubi rank. So obviously he needs to drop out. So we've got 2 new people to fill in at Komusubi. And as I mentioned, at Sekiwake, there were 3 people besides Wakamoto Haru, who had records that deserve to be ranked Sekiwake. So we're going to be choosing between those 3 as to who should be our Komusubi. And it should be fairly easy. Takanosho is out of the running. He's just too far behind these other guys. But like their ranking hits a ceiling because there's a ceiling at Sekiwake and Ozeki. So they all deserve to be Sekiwake, but if you remove that ceiling, Takanosho would deserve to be like 2 to 3 ranks below Abi and Wakataka Kage. And if we remove that ceiling, Abi would deserve to be 1 rank above Wakataka Kage. Both of them were in the Joy. Wakataka Kage at Maegashira 2, Abi at Maegashira 3. So I don't think either one would have any Joy bias over the other. So with Abi's ceiling rank being higher than Wakataka Kage's, I will take Abi to fill the Komusubi East ranking, and then I'll put Wakataka Kage at the Komusubi West side.
new vocab word there. Your ceiling rank. What is your ceiling rank, and should that put you ahead of somebody else or not?
Yeah, pretty, and that only applies when you're running into the Sekiwake rank. Pretty much is if your mathematical rank would put you like 4 spots ahead of
Mathematical
Sekiwake.
rank. Gotta
Well,
put that in the glossary too.
yeah, exactly.
We get deep in the weeds, and that's why our Discord channel has, or our Discord server has, an entire channel that's just Banzuke science.
Yeah, exactly. So then we filled out our Sanyaku ranks. I don't think Takanosho, despite having a rank and record combination that would make him worthy of being in the Sanyaku ranks, somebody with a 11 and 4 record from Maegashira. Nobody from Maegashira 6 is going to force open a new Sanyaku slot, I don't believe. So Takanosho, he's just going to have to take the Maegashira 1 East ranking as a silver lining, get another chance to break into the Sanyaku ranks. We'll see how he does. Last time he was down to Maegashira 6. Now he got 11 and 4. So we'll see how he does in the Joy this time. And now we've got to fill the Maegashira 1 West ranking. There is one Rikishi that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 1, and that's Gonoyama, who had an 11-4 record from Maegashira 8, but I'm not quite ready to pull the trigger on putting Gonoyama at the spot just yet, as we do have Kirishima, who dropped from Sekiwake with a 6-9 record, who deserves to be one rank lower than Gonoyama, as well as Atami Fuji, who went 8-7 from Maegashira 3, who deserves to be one rank lower than Gonoyama. So we could have a situation where either one of those guys could get a little bit of bias on their side and jump ahead of Gonoyama, and that's exactly what I'm going to be predicting to happen here. I believe the Sanyaku bias that Kirishima will allow him to jump ahead of Gonoyama despite deserving to be ranked one rank but lower than him.
So Kirishima, Maegashira 1 West.
Yes.
Now we have Atami Fuji and Gonoyama to decide between.
Yep. And talked about it a lot the past couple of Bashos. Joy bias is seemingly back and in full effect. We've seen that for 2 consecutive Basho now. So all my gloves are off on this one. I'm fully diving into accepting joy bias as a thing again and using that in this prediction. It really killed my last one when I didn't use it. So I would be a fool not to use it this time. That being said, Banzuke committee will clearly just ignore the past 2 Banzukes they put together and just ignore joy bias again. But hoping that they don't, I'm putting Atami Fuji at Maegashira 2 East, once again ahead of Gonoyama. But that is as far as I have Gonoyama dropping. I have him rising 6 ranks up to Maegashira 2 West after his 11-4 record. There is one other Rikishi that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 2, but that's Tobizaru from Maegashira 5. He's not going to get any sort of bias, I believe, to jump ahead of Gonoyama. So Gonoyama should be pretty safe there at Maegashira 2 West or higher, depending on how they want to use their biases.
Sure. And just not to derail us too much, but
yeah.
Joy bias, another term if you're new to these episodes. The Joy is like the informal name for the top 16 wrestlers on the list here. Mm-hmm. So the top 16 guys would include the Yokozuna and the other 15 guys that are expected to face the Yokozuna unless other scheduling conflicts show up.
Yes.
So
yep, exactly.
Guys that are in that top 16, which where would that end for this Banzuke? Maegashira, Oshoma, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Oshoma and everybody higher than him on the Kyushu Banzuke would have been expected to face the top guys. So these guys have a stronger schedule. Maegashira 5 and lower, those guys are mostly facing each other, whereas the top 16 guys are kind of round robining. Kind of. So when Ryan says joy bias, that means that guys that are in that top 16, they get a little bit of a bias towards them in favor of them getting a higher ranking. Trying out our new drawing tools.
We discovered you could draw on Zoom, and so trying to find ways to play around with that.
Yeah. So basically, everybody above that line gets a little bit of an extra asterisk next to their ranking. So, Kirishima doesn't drop as far as he otherwise might have. Atami Fuji would get the tiebreaker over Gonoyama because Atami Fuji faced tougher guys in this last Basho.
Yep.
So that comes up a lot, and like Ryan said, that's a rule that kind of faded out for a little while and wasn't taken into account very much. But yeah, seems to be back and seems to be influential in how they decide the rankings for the next Basho.
Yep. And that bias is even stronger for the Rikishi dropping out of Sanyaku above that red line, which I will now get rid of both of those.
Clever though. We gotta find better ways to make use of all of our dumb little toys that we have now.
Absolutely. All right, so now we are sitting at Maegashira 3, and there's only one Rikishi that really we can put here. Tobizaru went 9-6 from Maegashira 5. He deserves to be ranked Maegashira 2, so he will easily slot in at Maegashira 3, as there's nobody else that deserves to be ranked until there's somebody that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 4. So we're going to be pulling that Rikishi that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 4 up a little bit further than they deserve and putting Oho at Maegashira 3 West following a 6 and 9 record from Maegashira 1. So just a 2-drop rank for Oho there, getting a little bit benefit of the doubt. But now this is where we run into the trouble situation that I was talking about. When you have so many people in the middle of the Banzuke have ranks that are going to keep them in the middle of the Banzuke, and nobody's able to jump up into these kind of upper ranks. We're sitting at Maegashira 3 West. We're sitting at Maegashira 4 East is the next rank that we need to fill, and there's nobody that deserves to be ranked until Maegashira 7. So we're going to have some 3-rank over promotions or 3-rank under demotions coming here.
Can you give me a one more quick interruption here? When you say a guy deserves to be Maegashira 4, how are you determining that? Just as a quick overview.
So we'll use Ura as an example. He has a 5 and 10 record from the rank Maegashira 2. And a quick way to kind of guess where Rikishi's going to end up on the Banzuke is you take their wins minus their losses. So in this case for Ura, 5 minus 10. That leaves you with a value of -5. You would expect him to drop around 5 ranks on the Banzuke, which from Maegashira 2 would take you down to Maegashira 7. So that's what I mean when I say he deserves to be ranked Maegashira 7.
Sure. So your basic process for when you're creating the Banzuke is you kind of find out where everybody roughly deserves to be, and then you just on a case-by-case basis fill in the holes.
Let's go completely crazy here, Jake. Give me control of the screen.
I think I know how to do that.
All right. We figured out how to share our screen. So this is basically how I put
We're
together.
professionals.
Yeah. This is how I put together my predictions. I create basically the results from the previous Basho, and then I will write down everybody's name next to the rank that they would deserve to be. So like I just went over with Ura, I've got him next to Maegashira 7. So this is where I come up with my groups of Rikishi who deserve to be what rank, and I like to keep the record next to them for tiebreaker reasons, because a lot of times Rikishi that had more wins will go ahead of another Rikishi. So this is basically how I figure out the order that the Rikishi are going to go into. For the most part, it's whoever's name is higher up on the list is going to go ahead of somebody that's below them. As we talked about earlier with Go no Yama, Kirishima and Atami Fuji deserve to be 1 rank lower than him, but I decided that they might have some bias on their side, so I'll jump them up. But for the most part, this is kind of how I figure it out based on their previous rank and record, and then where they will end up, where they should end up on the next one. So you can see here visually, quite a big gap from the Maegashira 3 to Maegashira 6 ranks, and a lot of people from Maegashira 7 to Maegashira 11. So that's why we're going to have to be pulling so many people up into this Banzuke, or up the ranks into this Banzuke, because there's just nobody who deserves to go there.
Yeah. So we're trying to fill Maegashira 4, and we've already used up everybody that is highlighted in gray there. So
Yes.
what do? We have to reach all the way down to those Maegashira 7 guys to pull them up.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be weird. Let's switch back to our regular graphics, but yeah, good illustration.
So now let's see who we're going to fill that Maegashira 4 East spot. As you saw before on my screen, 3 Rikishi that could really contend for that spot. We have Shodai, who went 4 and 11 from Komusubi, Ura 5 and 10 from Maegashira 2, and Chiyoshoma, who went 11 and 4 from Maegashira 14. So Chiyoshoma could be in for a very large promotion. Well, he is in line for a very large promotion. Just is it going to be extra large if he goes right here? Not in my prediction, because we got to look at those 2 biases. We've already talked about Sanyaku bias, which Shodai has in his favor, and Joy bias, which Ura has in his favor. Sanyaku bias is going to be stronger than Joy bias, so I have Shodai landing at Maegashira 4 East. Bit of a soft drop for a 4-11 record, only falling 4 ranks after an expected drop of 7. But you see that coming out of the Sanyaku pretty often. So I feel pretty good with Shodai landing there. And so then it's just going to come down to, do I think it'll be Ura or Chiyoshoma? Ura sitting at Maegashira 2. I think he's got Joy Bias pretty solidly on his side here. So I've got him dropping just 2 ranks from Maegashira 2 to Maegashira 4 West after a 5-10 record.
That's pretty lucky.
Yeah. So then Chiyoshima, he's the only Rikishi now that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 7, but I do want to take a peek at the guys who deserve to be ranked Maegashira 8 to see if any of them might have some biases on their side. And when we look at the group of 4 Rikishi who deserve to be ranked Maegashira 8, we do see Hira Doumi, who went 4-11 from Maegashira 1. And well within the Joy, only deserves to be 1 rank behind Chiyoshima. And so I'm going to give Hira Doumi a little bit of a generous drop down the Banzuke. I'm going to assume some Joy bias on his part as well. And I'm going to put Hira Doumi at Maegashira 5 East.
Yeah, there's always some sections of the Banzuke that feel like this, but like Shodai, Ura, Hiradomi, no more than 5 wins for any of them. It looks generous in a vacuum. Obviously, like, when you explain your logic, I understand how we got there, but like,
Yeah.
but come on, that's like nothing.
Yeah.
We've seen, like a 4-11 Komosubi they could end up like all the way down to like Maegashira like 8, 9, 10 somewhere or something like that too. Like it's often that we will have guys with big negative records are kind of like you kind of use them to fill gaps here and there. And quite often that means that they will be the guys that are really unpredictable to guess where they land.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's this giant chasm in these couple ranks. And yeah, under demoting somebody for a bad record is I don't know. It happens all the time, but it just never
Yeah.
feels right.
Yeah, and honestly, 4-11 record dropping to Maegashira 4 isn't too crazy or out of the realm for somebody dropping out of Sanyaku ranks. Like a lot of the times you're going to see Maegashira 5, but in recent years we've seen Maegashira 3 for that record. We've even seen Maegashira 2 for
Really?
that record. Yes.
Okay, well, yeah, like I said, inconsistent, and yeah, they plug the holes as we go. So
Yeah. All right, so we'll stop being mean to Chiyoshima, the other Rikishi that deserve to be 1 or even 2 ranks behind him. All were ranked like Maegashira 7 or lower, so they're not gonna have any sort of biases. So Chiyoshima getting a 9-rank promotion after an 11-4 record from Maegashira 14 all the way up to, in my prediction at least, Maegashira 5 West. Potentially a chance to go even higher, depending on how the Banzuke committee wants to treat him. So now we get to the logjam as we have the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Rikishi that deserve to be ranked. All had either 7-8 or 8-7 records.
hooray!
So, to fill Maegashira 6, we've got to look to people that deserve to be ranked Maegashira 8, and of them, 2 of them had losing records from Maegashira 7. So it can't be them. Can't be Endo. Can't be Mitake Yumi. We're not going to promote those guys after a losing record. And
Even if
so
you deserve to be at a certain rank, you cannot be promoted for a losing record. That is like the hardest and fastest rule.
Yep. So then that pretty much just leaves Takayasu to go at Maegashira 6 East, rising up 3 ranks after an 8-7 record from Maegashira 9. I look to the people that deserve to be ranked Maegashira 9. Is there anybody dropping out of the Sanyaku or Joy there? Nope. Maegashira 10? Nope. Next you have is Maegashira 11. You've got Chura no Umi and Oshoma dropping from Maegashira 4. Maegashira 4 is already just kind of like borderline Joy bias place anyways. I'm definitely not going to put them ahead of somebody that deserves to be 3 ranks higher than them. So yeah, That's where I have Takayasu landing here. And then Maegashira 6. We've got to fill another spot there. We can't do any of the Rikishi that deserves to be Maegashira 8. Like I said, that's just Endo and Mitakayumi left. So then we have to look at the Rikishi that deserve to be Maegashira 9, excluding Rikishi with losing records like Roga and Midori Fuji, who both went 7 and 8 from Maegashira
8 and 9.
8 and 9. Hold on. I just discovered something.
Oh no.
I, oh no, indeed.
Did you like completely forget somebody?
I had Midori Fuji deserving to be ranked Maegashira 9 throughout this when he deserved to be ranked Maegashira 10 the whole time.
Ah, okay.
So hopefully I'm good in my prediction, I think. I don't think that throws anything off, but I've already submitted this, so
So I mean, it's too
hopefully
late
that
to make a
doesn't bite
change
me
for
in the
sure.
butt. But
But
yeah, so when you're manually entering all that information, you want to make sure you get them at the correct rank that they deserve.
garbage in, garbage out, as they say.
That's right. All right. Well, we'll keep going. We found an error. Hopefully, it doesn't affect us. But yeah, basically, Ichi Yamamoto and Takada Fuji are the next two Rikishi that can be moved up to this rank. They're 2 ranks clear of anybody who might have any sort of slight joy bias. So I feel comfortable putting them in this spot. So Ichi Yamamoto was on the east side of the Maegashira 10 rank. Takada Fuji was on the west side of the Maegashira 10 rank. So I've got Ichi Yamamoto rising up 4 ranks from Maegashira 10 to Maegashira 6 West, following an 8 and 7 record.
Hey, real quick, go color him blue on the results tab.
What? He's not blue? I could have swore I had.
It's
No,
that
everybody's
Midori
blue.
Fuji error. It's propagating.
No,
Garbage in,
everything's
garbage
blue.
out, man. Ichi Yamamoto, sell Y18 on our spreadsheet.
Y18.
Sure looks red to
Yeah.
me.
He's. Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, nope, that's the text.
Blue
God,
text, pale red background, beautiful, super legible. Let's just do that. Let's make that default.
no, why is this going so wrong today?
It's
Okay,
because you
there we
didn't
go.
script out your outline.
But it has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Oh, it's all going wrong. That's okay.
No. We found the rails. We're back on them. Everything is blue or red as designed.
We will see. All right. So that gets us to Maegashira 7, where we're having to pull people up way farther than we really want them to go at this point. And so when you have that situation, you love to run into a couple of 7 and 8 records. Luckily, we have 3 in a row to deal with. So at Maegashira 7 East, Endo had a 7 and 8 record. He's the Rikishi that deserves to be ranked the highest. We talked about you can't move anybody up, but you certainly can leave them in their previous spot. So we're going to keep Endo at Maegashira 7 East, and we're going to do the exact same for Mitake Yumi, who was Maegashira 7 West. There's nobody else that deserves to go ahead of them, and so we're just going to leave them both in that same spot. Roga, however, will not get that benefit, as he deserves to be ranked Maegashira 9, but so does Takada Fuji, who went 8 and 7 from Maegashira 10, and he had more win. Well, Roga was. I did not put as much thought into this as I should have. Roga was on the east side, and Takada Fuji was on the west side, so technically Roga could get east side bias to go ahead of Takada Fuji. Honestly, wouldn't shock me if that happened, but I have Takada Fuji getting the Maegashira 8 East ranking.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's one of
See,
those.
those are
where,
the
like,
little things that I find if I'm writing out an entire 10-page outline.
Well, that's one that I think it's been like less consistent, right? Like
It has. It honestly could go either way with the way the Banzuke committee's been doing it. We have
Yeah.
seen them kind of wanting to make sure people are getting demoted for 7 and 8 records. I know, like on the last Banzuke or 2 Banzukes ago, they dropped somebody with a 7 and 8 record despite them deserving to go ahead of like everybody else on
They
that
just made
Banzuke.
sure that they got a little bit of a hit to their ranking.
Yeah, but that was closer to the bottom of the Banzuke. Maybe their rules are different down there. But no, we'll be fine. This isn't an egregious error, just a small little thing, and I might have done this anyways. So,
It's a coin flip. Yeah.
yep.
But yeah, so that means that you got Roga at 8 West.
And yes, I do have Roga at 8 West. He is the last remaining Rikishi that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 9, which is where we have to pull up, right? And it's actually getting a lot better because, like I said, there is a log jam. There's a lot of people that deserved to fill these ranks, so we're filling that in very quickly. I
Sure.
will point out there is another Rikishi that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 9 alongside Roga, Ichi Yamamoto, and Takada Fuji, and that's Keen Bozan, who had a 12-3 record from Juryo 1, but
Mm.
he is Juryo trash, so we're not going to mention his name
Yeah.
again for another good while.
And again, in case this is your first time following along here, the Rikishi coming up from the lower division, getting promoted from the Juryo division, historically very, very strong bias against them. They generally go 2+ ranks lower than you would expect them if you were doing it just by the number of wins system that we talked about earlier. So yeah, even 12-3 from Juryo 1 is really good, but he's still gonna get passed up a couple times at least before he gets placed on this Bansuke.
So here is where I'm seeing my Midori Fuji error come into play. So I had Midori Fuji staying at Maegashira 9 East. I've submitted my Bansuke prediction. I cannot change that. Um, but Tamawashi and Meisei both had 8 and 7 records and deserve to go ahead of Midori Fuji, or they both deserve the same rank as Midori Fuji. So just looking at this blind, by actual, what I think will actually happen, I think I probably got Tamawashi landing at Maegashira 9 East because he was on the east side. Then I'd probably have Midori Fuji at Maegashira 9 West. Um, That's disheartening. All right, we're just gonna go with what I had.
Yeah, go with what you had. But yeah, this could be another one where it's just a coin flip that East and West are flipped at Maegashira 9. Is that what we're looking at?
No, Tamawashi will definitely go ahead of Midori Fuji. There's no way that doesn't happen.
Ah, dang. Okay.
But yeah, what I have Midori Fuji holding pat at Maegashira 9 East, and then so what I was looking at was the next two Rikishi that deserve to be placed are Tamawashi and Meisei. And then we're also looking at Churanaumi and Oshoma, both with 4 and 11 records from Maegashira 4. They're kind of in the borderline joy bias area. And in my prediction, I did have them receiving the benefit of joy bias. So despite deserving to be one rank lower than Tamawashi and Meisei, I do have Churanaumi going ahead of both of them. So I had Churanaumi dropping 5 ranks from Maegashira 4 to Maegashira 9 West, and I had Oshoma dropping 6 ranks to Maegashira 10 East. And then that allows Tamawashi to rise 1 rank from Maegashira 11 to Maegashira 10 West, and Meisei to move over from the Maegashira 11 West side to the Maegashira 11 East side.
So just
Since
a
they
half
are
a
the
rank for those guys. But yeah, I see what you
yeah
mean. If Midori Fuji was deserving of M10, that would
yeah
just slot those guys over. Well, there you
yep.
go. That's what you get for not spending 6 hours writing a full script for yourself.
I mean, yeah. All right. So
Nah, it'll
now
be fine.
we've got to fill in the Maegashira 11 West ranking, and now we're actually pretty much caught up because we're looking at Rikishi that deserve to be ranked Maegashira 11. It comes down to either Nishikigi, who went 5 and 10 from Maegashira 6 West, or Takeru Fuji, who went 10 and 5 from Maegashira 16 West. And so typically in this area of the Bansuke, I'm going to go with East-West bias. Both of them were on the west side, so my next tiebreaker would be who had more wins, which that was Takeru Fuji. So I've got Takeru Fuji landing at Maegashira 11 West. Nishikigi is the next Rikishi that deserves to be ranked. There's nobody that deserves to be ranked ahead of him, so I've got him landing at Maegashira 12 East. And then at Maegashira 12 West, we've got another situation. It's just two guys that deserve that rank. Shonan Naomi, who went 8 and 7 from Maegashira 13, or Onokatsu, who went 9 and 6 from Maegashira 15. Onokatsu was on the east side. He had more wins. So I've got Onokatsu rising up to Maegashira 12 West. And that just leaves a half rank for Shonan Naomi to move up from Maegashira 13 West to Maegashira 13 East.
Easy enough.
Yep. And then we've got one more spot at Maegashira 13 and one Rikshi that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 13. That is Hokuto Fuji, who went 7 and 8 from Maegashira 12. So he should very easily slot down to Maegashira 13 West.
Where's Kinbozan fallen?
So I'm glad that you brought that up.
Well, you mentioned him a few ranks ago, so yeah.
Yes.
I mean, by the math, what was the number that he was?
He
that
deserved
was aiming for?
Maegashira 9.
9. Gotcha.
Yes. So Shonan Naomi was our last Rikshi with a winning record in the top division that we placed. And typically that is where we are going to start filling in our Juryo Rikshi. You're not typically going to be putting in any Juryo Rikshi until your last Makuuchi Rikshi with a winning record has been placed. However, I didn't do that here. I put Hokuto Fuji ahead of Kinbozan as if Hokuto Fuji had been demoted below Kinbozan. He would have dropped 2 numerical ranks from Maegashira 12 to Maegashira 14 in favor of a Juryo Rikshi. And typically, I don't like to over demote a Rikshi unless there's nothing else that I can do. I could put Kinbozan there, but I don't think they're going to give a Rikshi coming up from Juryo kind of like that preferential treatment over a Makuuchi Rikshi. So for that reason, I have Hokuto Fuji staying ahead of Kinbozan.
Gotcha.
But those shackles come off at Maegashira 14. So I do finally have Kinbozan landing at Maegashira 14 East. It came down to either him or Koto Shoho, who went 3 and 12 from Maegashira 5. Koto Shoho deserves to be 5 ranks lower than Kinbozan, but he's up high enough where I would consider him to go ahead of Kinbozan here. Because if you actually look at just the last Banzuke, Shonan Naomi went 3 and 12 from Maegashira 5, and he would end up going ahead of Chiyoshima, who was our first Rikshi to come out of Juryo. But in that case, Chiyoshima only deserved to be 1 rank higher than Shonan Naomi. So I was okay with Shonan Naomi blocking Chiyoshima for 1 more rank. But when it's a difference of 5 ranks,
that's a little bit more severe.
I think that should be enough for Kinbozan to go ahead of Koto Shoho here. So I've got Koto Shoho dropping 9 ranks all the way down to Maegashira 14 West following his 3 and 12 record. And then after this, it's actually pretty clear sailing for our remaining Juryo promotees. At Maegashira, the Rikshi who deserves to be ranked Maegashira 14, Hakuoho, a Juryo promotee, is the only one that deserves to be ranked there. At Maegashira 15, Kita Nowaka is a Juryo Rikshi is the only Rikshi that deserves to be ranked there. Maegashira 16, Kageyaki and Tama Shoho, 2 Juryo Rikshi, are the only Rikshi that deserve to be ranked there. The next Makuuchi Rikshi that deserves to be ranked is Nishiki Fuji at Maegashira 17, and he's actually the last Makuuchi Rikshi that has a rank and record combination that would put him in the top division. So we're just gonna fill out the next 4 ranks with those 4 Juryo Rikshi that I brought up. So at Maegashira 15 East, I have Hakuoho rising up, looks like 4 ranks after a 10 and 5 record from Juryo 2. Then at Maegashira 15 West, I have Kita Nowaka rising up 2 ranks after a 9 and 6 record from Juryo 1. At Maegashira 16, I have Kageyaki rising up. Why do I have Kageyaki there instead of Tama Shoho? Yeah, no, because they were both. Kageyaki was 9 and 6 from Juryo 2. Well, I know why. Tamashoho was 10-5 from Juryo 4. Both were on the same side. Tamashoho had more wins. So Tamashoho could easily, probably will, go ahead of Kageyaki here.
Isn't
Um,
Kageyaki the one who, according to ancient legend, gets tiebreakers for no reason?
yes, that the lore does read that way for Kageyaki.
He's just generally lucky in inexplicable ways on the Banzuke.
Yeah. The only reason Kageyaki would go ahead of Tama Shoho here is if this mythical joy bias exists. Like if the Rikshi from Juryo 1 to Juryo 3 get preferential treatment over other Juryo Rikshi. But no, if I were to redo this, I'd put Tama Shoho ahead of Kageyaki. But yeah, so those are your Juryo promotees kind of all coming together in a nice neat little line there. Not really any debate on who's going down to Juryo and who's coming up from Juryo this Basho. It's all fairly clean and well put together, but we still do have one more rank to fill out at Maegashira 17. So on the east side, the only Rikshi that deserves to be ranked Maegashira 17 is Nishiki Fuji with a 6-9 record from Maegashira 14. So he's dropping 3 ranks there. And then we just have a decision to make. We've got 2 Rikshi that deserve the rank of Juryo 1 to fill the Maegashira 17 West spot. That being Toki Hayate, who went 6-9 from Maegashira 15, or Shiden, who went 10-5 from Juryo 6. And this is a situation where both were on the same side. Shiden had more wins. Typical tiebreaker rules, I might take Shiden, but anti-Juryo bias. If a Juryo Rikshi deserves to be the same rank as a Makuuchi Rikshi, especially one that's coming from deep Juryo like Juryo 6, I'm going to take the Makuuchi Rikshi every time. So I've got Toki Hayate landing at Maegashira 17 West to be the bottom Rikshi on the Banzuke. So those are our 42 Rikshi filling out the top division. We had 5 new faces that weren't there in the previous Basho, which means we have to say goodbye to 5 Makuuchi Rikshi. I've got those being Sada no Umi, who went 4-11 for Maegashira 12, Ryuden, who went 4-11 from Maegashira 13, Shishi 5-10 for Maegashira 16, Asakoryu 6-9 from Maegashira 17, and Bushozan, who went 3-12 from Maegashira 17.
Are there any of those that you think are not a complete lock?
No, I'm
Okay.
there. This one is pretty clear cut.
Sure. Certainly those bottom 3, Shishi, Asakoryu, Bushozan. There's no way any
Yeah.
of those guys are sticking around.
Yeah, because and the reason why is in order to keep Sada no Umi in, we would have to cut the number of Juryo Rikshi coming up to 4. And Sada no Umi is the one that would be the closest to staying in.
Mm-hmm.
But that would mean we would keep Sada no Umi in over Kageyaki or Tamashoho, who deserve to be 3 ranks higher
There
than
you go.
Sada no
Okay.
Umi. So, yeah, it's very clear who is coming up and who is going down. Very nice division this time.
Gotcha.
All right. So very, very clear what I potentially got wrong on this one, Jake. This should be pretty easy for some people to get ahead of me. I'm pretty sure I'm going to drop my number 1 ranking status on this, as I did not
You were
take
just
the
absolutely
time that I
devastated by
needed.
this one.
I am. I'm actually very pissed off at myself because there were some very easy errors that if I had more time to take a look at it, would have easily fixed a couple of things on here. So, I mean, I'm not, I am mad. I am mad.
Yeah. Don't
I
pretend
have
you're
a
not,
very
yeah.
high standard for myself on this. But also, I don't have the time that I used to have to put into this. So, a
Yeah.
little unfortunate.
Your
Just got to
company,
be a little bit more diligent next time.
you are butter scraped over too much bread this last few months with your job. I get that.
And the first few months of 2025, we'll see how that goes. But I've already
Yeah.
got a couple. Yeah.
I think the other one that I've got my eye on is those 3 giant under demotions, Shodai, Ura, Hiradumi, right back to back.
Hmm.
I'd be curious to see if Chiyoshoma does actually split up that group. if he goes
Yeah.
ahead of any of those. That's other than like effectively typos, like that's probably the one that I've got my eye on the most as like a
Yeah.
potential thing I might have done differently.
Yeah. And as for your question before about like, are we splitting up any pairs? Like Tom Ichi Yamamoto and Takada Fuji, both
Yeah.
8 and 7 from Maegashira 10. I think those are the two that ended up furthest apart in my prediction. I had Ichi Yamamoto landing at Maegashira 6 and Takada Fuji at Maegashira 8.
Yeah, because at the top we talked about how all those 7 and 8s right next to each other. It doesn't look like other than that one, it doesn't look like they really got split apart too far. But I was kind of keeping my eye on that as like a potential quirk, I guess, of how this one worked out. But yeah, doesn't seem to be all that big a deal.
All right. So that is not going to be the end of Grand Sumo Breakdown in 2024. We've got the popularity poll out. We've got the GSB award show out. In about a week, we are going to have our December news update, and that might be the last you hear of Grand Sumo Breakdown in 2025. We'll see
Very
about
possibly.
yeah, we'll see about the Banzuke review, but that's happening right around Christmas time. Like we're both gonna have family and
Yeah,
traveling
that's
those
probably coming out
entire
roughly New
weeks.
Year's.
Yeah.
Within
Um,
the first 2 weeks of the new year, though, we'll have our preview. That'll probably be like that first ish weekend or that the week of the 6th.
mhm.
Our preview for the Hatsu show. We also, in those first 2 weeks of the year, will have our amateur sumo award show. This year, I will probably we haven't finalized exactly when yet, but I've got we've really nailed down a good consistent group of people that have been contributing to the newsletter this last year, and that group will be getting together and deciding on all of our awards for amateur sumo, and that's gonna be a blast. Last year it took 3 hours, so we'll see how this year goes. Hopefully a
Impressive.
little bit shorter, but it's always a blast to hang out with people and talk about the wonderful world of traveling around the country to do sumo wrestling. It's such a great community to be a part of, and we like to celebrate that at the end of the year or technically beginning of the next one.
Yeah. And we'll also have our predictions for 2025 prior
Yeah.
to the Hatsu Basho. I've got to get my name back at the top of the show, but you know what?
Yeah.
After this performance on this Bansuke, I kind of deserve being dropped down in the pecking order a little
Really
bit.
setting the mood for 25, aren't
Yeah.
we?
Yeah, getting off to a very bad start here. So the Bansuke that we predicted, this is going to be released on Sunday, December 22nd. So just 6 days away from finding out the results here. And the Basho is going to be starting on Sunday, January 12th. So thank you everybody for not turning this off halfway through when we realized that Ryan didn't know what the hell he was talking about on this Bansuke.
Ryan made a typo. He doesn't deserve that trophy.
Well, it's not the typo. It's the just very blatant misses on my part. So
Oh my
I
God.
will, you know what? I'm going to throw my salt high and I'm going to keep moving forward and I'm going to hold my head high and we're going to do better next time.
Oh man, I will keep an eye out for the bonus episode where Ryan continues to apologize and grovel.
I'm more just processing my anger at myself.